Everybody was fighting.
Welcome to GameSpot Live. I'm Greg Kasavin, here to tell you all about Kung Fu Chaos for the Xbox. It's sort of a party game, an action party game for 1 to 4 players, where you get to play as one of 8 different kind of crazy, aspiring Kung Fu movie stars in a game that's styled after the various Kung Fu movies out of Hong Kong from the 70s and early 80s. The game actually does a pretty good job with its source material at times. It can be pretty funny. If you're a fan of old Kung Fu movies, I'm not talking about, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan movies. I'm talking about Bruce Lie movies and just kind of the dirty Bruce Lee knockoffs, dime a dozen cheap late night Kung Fu movies. This game might well appeal to you with its kind of cheap dialogue and funny sound effects and stuff like that. Some of the humor is actually pretty good. There's a mini game involving trying to save drowning ninjas who have jumped out from basically the Titanic that's collapsed, and you're tossing life preservers to them while seals will jump out of the water and try to knock these life preservers back in your face. There are also some really actually rather impressive background graphics as you go through these different movie sets fighting off droves of ninjas. These backgrounds are just collapsing all around you, and these horrible things are happening all as you keep fighting. It's a pretty impressive looking game the first couple of times. That said, it's repetitive. There's not a whole lot to it. It's better served as a multiplayer game than as a single-player game, as most of these party games go. And it's probably not the greatest use of your $50, but if you want to play a game, when you've got friends over, this one's a pretty solid choice. The game's got a lot in common with other kind of party action games like Power Stone and Smash Brothers. The main single-player mode is called the Ninja Challenge, where you fight through successive stages of ninjas and also kind of go through these mini games trying to earn a 5-star rating, but even a 3-star rating you'll pass. The action is pretty straightforward. You've got a variety of different attacks. You've got kind of slow, unblockable attacks, as well as fast kind of counter hits and throws and stuff like that. There's enough complexity to the gameplay that Kung Fu Chaos actually loses a bit of its pick-up-and-play appeal. You might have trouble figuring out what's going on if you just pick up the controller and have at it. But if you go through the single player for about an hour, you'll get a good grasp on the controls and pretty much know all that there is to know about the mechanics of the game. The action is basically solid. It plays kind of like a beat-em-up brawler like Final Fight, something like that. The stages scroll automatically, and all these kind of cataclysmic events keep happening, so they're pretty exciting to go through at least a few times. Some of the mini games are pretty fun too. The best of the mini games is probably the one where you and your opponents are kind of wearing inner tubes around your waist, and you're sliding around on this icy platform and trying to knock each other into the icy waters below. It's kind of you've probably played other games like this in the past, but it's a pretty funny revision of it. It looks good and it's fun to play. Kung Fu Chaos isn't the most politically correct game, so it bears mention, if anything. The announcer who introduces the Ninja Challenge and will kind of comment on your performance, he's actually pretty bad. The dialogue is just really poorly done, and his accent is terrible. It's not so much that it's like a racist thing or anything like that, in my opinion. It's more just that it's really dumb and stupid, and it's almost as if the developers knew it, because there's an option just to turn this guy off. And you should probably do that. You'll find the game more amusing if you go ahead and do that, because a lot of the other jokes are pretty funny. Kung Fu Chaos is inspired by the chop socky dime a dozen Kung Fu movies from the late 70s, early 80s period of Hong Kong cinema, and these movies really didn't have high aspirations. They're just kind of an excuse to present an entertaining 2-hour brawl. Like those movies, Kung Fu Chaos doesn't really have high aspirations for itself. It's a pretty straightforward brawler for 1 to 4 players. It's got some pretty impressive graphics and some good laughs. So if you're planning to have a few pals over this weekend, you could do worse than by renting Kung Fu Chaos.